Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Richard Lewis Show. Yes, it's that time, or roughly that time, because we can't really stick to a schedule too rigidly. Why the fuck should we anyway? It's Twitch, it ain't TV. I'm Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does, floating around like a voice in my head, the ghost of sins past. It is Sam Davis. How you doing, man?
Alright, mate. Fresh.
Yeah.
Look at this crisp overlay, mate. Check that out. See you in my 50% again.
Let's have a look.
Nice, isn't it, mate?
Oh shit, scrolling as well, dude.
See, every time you say I don't earn it, mate, there it is.
Who's Will J CJ? Is that the latest sub?
Yeah.
All right. You're not doing that thing streamers do where we fake the donations.
Sam, not Sam 237.
Yeah, Richard's bank has donated all the running costs of the show.
Nice guy.
Yeah, not bad. Good job. Oh, and you know what I did notice the other day? You know when we got that big $100 donation?
Yeah.
Right? So for years, right, we've had that guy who did that donation, scrolling at the bottom, Jerky, right?
Yeah.
He's followed my work for years. I've met him at events even.
Yeah.
Right? And I always thought he was called Jerky Simon.
Isn't it Jerky something?
No, it's Jerky's Minion.
Right, yeah.
I must have dyslexia or something, and I didn't know. I didn't know for years. I even said I was watching the VOD back. Yep, cheers for the donation, Jerky Simon. Who the fuck's Jerky Simon, mate?
Cheers, mate. Peace. I'll be having that.
He's just lost his mind.
Peace.
So sorry about that. But anyway, look, right, so I'm pretty tired today. I had to stay up all day doing some documents. And when I do documents, like typing stuff up, I drink. And I got through the best part of this bottle of fucking Baker's Overproof. So I don't know, I've got problems, haven't I? Doing a daily show is going to unveil just how much of a drink problem I actually have, I think. So I'm a little bit sluggish today. But here's another thing I got to do. When you stayed over, Sam, because you know you're a big guy and Atlanta's super hot. I don't know if you know.
Is this the story of how I broke something again?
Well, I'm not going to say you broke it. I'm just going to say coincidentally, after you went, the air conditioning didn't work. Now, it hasn't been too much of a problem because we got big ceiling fans and stuff here. But mate, it's getting hot in Atlanta now, so the air conditioning doesn't work. So I've got to, clean up the kitchen and get everything in a good spot. So when the maintenance guy comes out, he doesn't judge me, right? I don't want to get judged. So, everything's easy. You mop the floor, I can do that. I've done that, right? You can hoover stuff, done that. Rearrange things for feng shui or whatever. I've done that, right? But there's the hobs, your halogen hobs, where you cook things, right? And there's burn marks on it. So I was having a look through, right, to get a good way to just get them burn marks off. So I got in with one of them metal scourers, right? And I was really having a good old, fucking getting in there, a good old fapperino. And they weren't coming off. So I went online. I was like Googling, is there any good ways to get rid of those burn marks? Turns out baking soda. But on my travels through the internet, right, I found the video of the least enthusiastic man. Not everyone is cut out for YouTube. It's 2 minutes, right? I don't know if I'm the only person who finds this funny. We might have to end the show here. Because Richard, you're just showing us cleaning videos. It's done. You're out of shit. But just have a look at this, mate. Just play this cunt and try not to laugh because I couldn't believe it.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Paul Russell. I'm the Managing Director of Happy Hands Cleaning Services. I brought along my #1 spring clean team to show you how to clean a house. I'm going to tell you how to clean a kitchen hob. Okay, so there's various different products on the market. We tend to use a product called Hob Bright. It's a very effective way of cleaning the hobs. You're probably going to use silver scours potentially, or Scotch Brite. Basically what you're trying to do is get rid of the burnt in food residue on your hob. Try and remove that, so you might want to use a sponge or silver scour to try and remove that. Remove all the food stuff off the hob and then use a cleaning product of your choice to wipe that down with a wet cloth and then dry and buff with a dry cloth. So you pay attention to the dials. Some of these dials can actually come off. Yeah, they're actually on a clip. And pop them off and clean behind them. You can also use little tricks like toothbrushes to get in between as well. These are all the things that you can use to try and clean up your hob. Ultimately, if you want to get the shine, you definitely want to dry with a dry cloth and buff up, and that gets you the shine.
I mean, what I love about the video is like his cleaning tip is just use a cleaning product.
Yeah, I know.
Like look at that. So you can stop it there, right? But here's the thing, yeah. Just go back to what I don't know, 130. Just pause it, right, and just have a look at that face, all right. And then I want you to just bring up a side by side of somebody else's face, because this struck me as kind of odd. And again, maybe only I see it, but let me just see if I can find a good example. It's hard. It's hard. See, I didn't prepare this. This sort of just occurred to me, and then I thought, am I actually going to say that? Here you go. This will do. All right, and then bring up a side by side with this. Right. And what I noticed was the guy who's dead inside talking about cleaning. He just looks like old Henry G.
He does a bit.
He does a bit though, doesn't he? He does though, doesn't he? Yeah. And if you
looks like Henry if he lost all his hair,
right,
and his jaw.
Yeah, have a look.
Yeah.
Right? What's
if
that?
He has no jawline.
What? If basically, I think if I don't know, maybe if I think that's pretty good. I think I might be Henry G. No wonder he's dead inside. I used to be one of the leading Counter-Strike commentators. Yeah, watch the knobs. they pop off. They pop off. Yeah, dead inside. So yeah, Henry G from the future ends up with a cleaning job. Right. So look, let's do what didn't happen to start off. I got sent this a few days ago. It's another one of these didn't happens, which are just so glaringly true that it didn't happen, just so obvious that it didn't happen, that it boggles my mind that this has been retweeted 26,000 times, liked 40,000 times, right? It's insane. Who would ever believe this? Who would ever believe this? So I'm going to just link you to the original tweet, right? This was a guy called First Knives Club on Twitter. He's one of these virtue signaling types. You can tell by looking at him. You know, he's got that hipster thing going on with his facial hair. And the tweet reads, "My aunt sold her house and she got this fucking email. So Blank Avenue has been predominantly white and somewhat affluent for nearly 100 years." I mean, again, probably no place is like that anymore. You know, affluent, sure. Predominantly white, yeah, okay, maybe. But, you know, the idea of like exclusively white areas just seems a bit weird. I don't think they really exist anymore. But it is disturbing to hear that you have sold, and then the name of the property, to a black family. You have destroyed the property values in the neighborhood, and you may be sued for the loss in value homeowners on the surrounding blocks will now realize. Many may be forced to sell. I am an attorney who may have an interest in pursuing legal action against you and your realtor for the severe loss in value of neighborhood property due to your reckless forced integration. Now, this just didn't happen, did it? I mean, there's just no way. I mean, first of all, this fear, you know, the fear of fucking black people lowering your house prices. What is this, the 20s? Like, it just doesn't work like that, does it? A black family moving into a predominantly white neighborhood, obviously they would have the money. I don't think it would suddenly lower house prices. This is an old fear. This is an old fear, and this is like, again, like what modern people when they try and talk about racists, they go back and they were like, well, what did racists used to do? Well, they said smoking weed was bad because it encouraged people listening to jazz music and that get them to Satan, and it was the Negro that introduced that. And, you know, they recant all of this old stuff that just racists believed that back then. They were morons. They believed that shit. Nobody thinks like that now. You'd probably be hard pushed to find a racist who thinks that, honestly. So it's because they don't ever encounter anything outside of their echo chambers. When they try and make up racism, it's so obviously fake. Now, here's the other problem with this clearly fictitious story, and that is, okay, so let's say, for example, I lived in that neighborhood and I did feel that way. You've pretty much given away who you are because you said, I'm an attorney. Okay, rich white neighborhood. Maybe there's lots of attorneys with an interest in suing you. So as soon as the lawsuit comes in, you sent that message, didn't you, mate? You sent that hateful, racist message, and now you're going to jail. Coises. If only I hadn't have been so openly racist in an email. Third, to send something that openly racist, which would be construed as hate speech by any conceivable metric, a veiled threat as well towards the person. Why would you choose email as the medium of choice there? Because as soon as the aunt goes to the police about it, they just find out who sent it. Just saying, like it's not a safe medium to send that kind of thing, is it? Right? Then, to add further to the point, you can't sue somebody for a dip in house prices. You can't do it. It
unless
doesn't
you
work.
smash
right?
the house up. I don't think
I'm pretty sure you can't even do that. Because there was a famous case.
I mean, someone else's house, not their own.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, but I'm pretty sure there was like a famous case where I think it was to do with the King of Chavs. Do you remember that guy?
No.
You don't remember the King of Chavs? The King of Chavs. Let me bring this guy up. The King of Chavs. Michael Carroll. I'm sure we've talked about him on the show before. Michael Carroll, a.k.a. the King of Chavs, dubbed the King of Chavs by the newspapers. Now, what Michael Carroll was he was a guy from Norfolk, right, who won the lottery at a pretty young age. He was a bin man who won 9.7 million on the national lottery, age 19, right? And he just went out and he just spunked it all against the wall, mate. He didn't give a fuck. He had a tough life. He had a tough life, right? He was brought up between, the classic story of a military home. So the dad was away a lot. His mother had to work to sort of make ends meet. His dad kind of went a bit mental and stabbed someone. And he did 11 years in military prison, which is different to real prison. I'll just let you know that. Parents split up, and then his dad dies from a heart attack because, all the stress of that military prison. He had a bunch of learning disorders, but he managed to integrate into society kind of after a few minor offenses like shoplifting. He'd been in prison, and he got a job as a bin man. And then one day he did the lottery, and he won the lottery. 9.7 million. So you're like, well, probably not the most deserving person, but, fuck it, it's the lottery. It's not about that. He's won the money. He gets a new chance at life, and he has a good time. Problem is, he just couldn't be asked living a quiet life. He was like, yeah, I got money now. So he bought this massive fucking house, right? He painted it up with, like, Rangers colours. He was driving around in like new Mercedes and shit that he bought, real garish cars that he like put a fucking body kit on a car, you know what I mean? That was worth like $500,000 or something. He's putting like a 10 grand body kit on it and making it look shit. And he went in and did like celebrity boxing matches and just all of this stuff. Anyway, because he turned the house into such a big fucking garish nightmare. And and he would wake up drunk, and he had one of his Mercedes vans converted into a catapult. and he was like just catapulting like steel balls off into town, like some fucking like this is all true. Right. So eventually the people complained and they wanted to get together and sue him because it was the king of the chavs neighborhood. They wanted to sue him collectively for sort of lowering the value of the neighborhood. And they couldn't do it. It's like, you know, he's been punished to the full extent of the law for the offenses he's committed. His house and property is his own. You can't do anything about it. So the neighborhood just had to suck it up and live with it. Now, interestingly enough, by 2010, a mere 8 years later, he'd blown all of his winnings and had to go back to being a bin man. So there you have it. So anyway, so back to what we're talking about. So back to this fake email. There is no way any attorney would even think to write this because there is no grounds on which to sue for selling your property to anyone, be they black or otherwise. And I don't know why this person, again, like, it's like it's a competition these days. You invent something that no reasonable person could possibly agree with. You know, the idea of black people being kept out of certain neighborhoods is abhorrent and disgusting. The idea that white people wouldn't sell their properties to black people because somehow they're lesser and it would, you know, lower the tone of the neighborhood is absolutely disgusting. And I know historically these things have gone on. I also know there's now protections in place to stop things like this. Like, you know, if there's any grounds for discrimination or prejudicial behavior of any kind, there's a case to be made against them, either by the law with hate speech laws and this kind of thing, or privately, punitively. You know, if you get denied a house that you have the money for, or let's say you get charged extra because you're black, and you find out about that, I'm pretty sure sitting down with a lawyer that same day is going to be a good idea, because a lawsuit will pretty much be a slam dunk for the prejudice that you've kind of received, you know, against your person. You'll be awarded damages. So this just doesn't ring true. And it's like I say, it's this invention. What did racists used to do? This is what they used to do. Let's pretend that's still happening now. Let's pretend society hasn't moved forward, and then it validates everything else. And there's a guy in the chat there also saying that bizarrely, he's attacking the formatting of the email, not the content. This guy's probably going a bit too far with his whole didn't happen thing. He's like going, you know, I wrote up an example email. If you had actually received an email, this is how the text would be formatted. And he's like, why do you have all these random gaps in your email? And of course, he does have random gaps in the email because he just wrote it on whatever little chat program and clipped it. You know, again, just also to say that if somebody sent me that kind of email, I'd completely go public and give out information in a bid to try and, you know, pinpoint who sent it. And I'd certainly be sending it to the authorities. No indication that happened either. So it's just a classic lie. Classic didn't happen. So speaking of didn't happen, I don't know if anyone follows me on Twitter. If you watch the show, you probably do. But our good friend, Mason Cross, tweeted at me.
Yeah.
Here you go. He actually tweeted at me. So for those who missed the show 2 days ago, Mason Cross is the guy, the writer, whose 11-year-old daughter suddenly understood complicated interpretations of the Geneva Convention to write it down on her school feedback form, which then her dad sees and publishes on Twitter. And, oh, look at my 11-year-old girl. Should I ground her or buy her ice cream? And because everyone's a fucking moron these days, it goes viral. And actually, just before we get into the tweet he sent to me, when I said viral, we looked at a little bit of the coverage initially. This is so stupid how much coverage this fake tweet actually got. It's ridiculous. So I'm just going to put it in context. It was in the BBC. We brought that up. It was in the Daily Mail as well. All right. So there's the Daily Mail report of it there. Okay. Surely that's the end of the madness. No, it was in the Evening Times as well. So there's another report there of it. Okay, well, right, that's got to be it now. No, Mashable reported on it as well. This is just a fake tweet. I don't know why this makes news. I mean, we already know that the BBC put it in Scottish news, right? So what else happened? Indy 100 reported on it. These are all articles about an obviously fake tweet, which even if it was real would not be newsworthy in any way, shape or form. But it's not real, right? Teen Vogue, of course. You'll remember Teen Vogue, Lauren Duca. There you go. So just rolling coverage of this fake tweet. And in fact, this is how you know the guy is so fucking cynical, because as soon as the tweet started trending and it went viral, he changed his biography to say Ava's dad. And I was like, well, that's cynical. Nah, not as cynical as this. He was doing a book selling at Waterstones in Argyll in Scotland. And look, advertising his new book. Just weird how he happened to have a new book out. It's just so weird, Sam, how he had a new book out when this viral tweet thing occurred. So his new book, Don't Look For Me, by Mason Cross. Look at it. On his Waterstone sign, a picture of the fake tweet, which looks even faker there, because you can see the clear distinction between the two different writing types, the different pressure for the darkness of the pencil. But look, by Mason Cross, Ava's dad. Why not go the whole fucking hog, Mason? Why not go the whole hog and just change your name by deed poll to Ava's dad? The latest book by Ava's dad. Why not? It's all viral marketing. It don't fucking matter, does it? Why not do it? How fucking sad is this? This is the saddest load of shit I've ever seen. Unbelievable nonsense. But anyway, he tweeted at me. I finally got to him. I finally got under his skin. A combination of tweeting that Vice article we've talked about, you know, people who lie and pretend to be their kids for retweets, and what a terrible sad world it is, back when Vice was good. And he replied and said, since you're calling me a liar on zero evidence, can I call you an insecure dick on the compelling evidence of your replies? Now, first of all, I'm calling you a liar based on what we call the balance of probability. You probably don't know much about that, Mason. Based on an analysis of the different kinds of handwriting in the tweet, I think we can safely say there's something amiss. But all right, I suppose there's no hardcore evidence other than the fact that you are a fiction writer, and therefore, in a way, you do kind of lie and make shit up for a living, don't you? But all right. Yeah, but just to the second half of your tweet, why am I the insecure dick? I'm not insecure. I mean, insecure to me would be like, I don't know, if I had a daughter who was just ordinary and I had to pretend that she wasn't for attention. Maybe that's the kind of thing an insecure person would do. I don't know. You're the writer. You're the published writer, Mason Cross. Sorry, Ava's dad. You're the published writer, Ava's dad. You tell me what a big word like insecure actually means. So I reply and I said, don't know why pointing out what you did makes me insecure. I hope you got some more 99p Kindle sales in as a result of the coverage. Hit him where it hurts. Nobody likes the fact their book is being sold for 99p on Kindle. No one likes that, Sam. That's not what you hope for when you become a published writer. You grit your teeth and you go, bloody hell, the digital age is great. Fucking love them Kindle sales. Books for £1. You phone it in. You fake it. Replies with, you didn't point out anything. I mean, I did. I pointed out that I think you lied, and these are the reasons why. But okay, again, this language thing's too complex for me, Sam. And he said, except perhaps that you're an upset child. Oh, your upset a child is smarter than you are. I mean, I would expect at my age to understand some of the subtleties of the Geneva Convention. Don't expect it at 11. And let's be real, Mason, your kid might be smart. She ain't that smart. I can spell Geneva, can't I? So she couldn't. God. And I think that's your failing as a parent. But it's all right. It's okay for me to say those things because it's a lie anyway. It never happened. You wrote that part of the tweet. Anyway, so I responded with, maybe you missed the part where I heavily implied you made the whole thing up for attention. Which you did, because he did, didn't he? He did.
100% did.
100% did, though.
Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau. So he said here, I wonder why it's so important for you to think that. I mean, it's not that important, is it? It's just a goof for the show.
Internet for a goof, yeah.
Yeah, you have come onto the internet, Ava's dad, and told some porky pies, and I'm there. I'm waiting for you to tell some porky pies. And he goes, anyway, I have work to do, and I'm sure you have the moon landings to debunk. Now, let's be real here. Let's be real, okay? You making up a tweet, you making up a tweet that your daughter is supposed to have said, and me seeing how clearly fake it is, which anyone with half a brain could have seen, and even the publications with the rolling coverage have alluded to that it might be fake. It's not quite on the same level of complexity as the moon landing, is it? It's not quite. It's the moon landing, which I don't believe was fake, but let's say it was. To keep that kind of thing a secret and fake it, you need, a credible director, Stanley Kubrick, let's say. You got to have actors. Actors will take that shit to the grave, right? You got to have all of the props and everything else hidden, destroyed. You've got to have a solid campaign of misinformation put out to the public. You got to have everybody who was involved in NASA and everything else actually not ever come out and say, you know what? Some of this doesn't make sense. You got to have somebody on hand to debunk all of those weird photos where people are going, that rock looks like it's got a prop number on it. You got to have all of that on standby. And then you have to do that pretty much every day for decades. Even when a film is made about it in the public domain, Capricorn 1, starring O.J. Simpson. It's pretty good. I think they make it Mars instead of the moon, but basically it's about a bunch of astronauts that go and they fake the landing. And then, of course, to hermetically seal the lie, they decide they have to kill the astronauts and they run away. And it's a great film, but spoiler, it ends with one of the astronauts turning up at his own funeral to blow the lid off the case. Great movie. Back when O.J. Simpson wasn't a fucking madman. I mean, probably was, but, kept that shit under wraps. So anyway, as you can see, the moon landing is pretty complex if you were faking that shit. To keep that conspiracy fake. You adding a little bit to something your daughter wrote and putting it on the internet, not really the same level of conspiracy required, is there, to keep the lid on that? So I'm not going to debunk the moon landing. One, I think it's real. Two, it'd be too hard. Better men than me have tried and failed. But basically, I think it's really arrogant on your part to compare the two. Right? Then somebody came in and said, I don't even know what this guy is talking about, which is strange. Because it's very clear and obvious. And this guy who said that is actually a journalist. Same guy who doesn't understand what sourcing is. I mean, shouldn't be surprised. So, and he said, well, here's what he's saying. Pay attention to me, essentially. From the person faking tweets on the internet for attention. The outrage. So in the end, because he did have work to do, those 99p Kindle books aren't going to sell themselves. Me and Sam suggested an amendment to his bio, and that is that we sent in a nice little edit, which instead of Ava's dad, it just says lying rat, which I think that works, right?
Got him.
Got him. So didn't happen all over the place, mate. It's mental, isn't it? People are just fucking crazy. And it gives us a chance, actually, to segue into a mad didn't happen. A mad didn't happen. I got to talk about it. I've got to talk about it. I can't ignore it. Now, quick question, Sam. If we get into this Kathy Griffin stuff, are we allowed to show the photo on Twitch?
I guess so. You're allowed to show fake blood in games. Why can't I show fake blood on
okay.
doll?
Right, well, here it is.
Me.
So let's start at the beginning because there's a lot to get through. So Kathy Griffin is a comedian. I've actually got a lot of time for her. I think she's an iconic figure in a lot of ways for female comedy. And, she's been in a lot of shows and done a lot of specials. And, I got respect for the body of her work, even though she's not somebody I would, necessarily rate or rank, there's people like that, isn't there? That you can respect, and you don't have to necessarily like their work, Have I ever bought anything by her? No. Do I own anything in the house? No. If there was a Kathy Griffin special on, would I stay in and watch it? If it was on Netflix, would I make a beeline for it? No to all of those questions. But I can still respect the body of work she's put out over the decades, because for somebody to stick around, especially in comedy, for that long, you've got to have a talent, and it might not be my cup of tea or whatever, but she's definitely got that. Now, for some reason, she decided to do a photo shoot. And this is just what I mean about the left losing perspective. She decided to do a photo shoot where she holds up the bloody severed head of what is clearly Donald Trump with a defiant look on her face as if she just did it. Now, this goes out into the public domain, courtesy of TMZ, I believe, with the first publication to put it out there. And I got to say, as somebody that kind of has dabbled in comedy myself, as somebody who does a podcast where I want to be able to speak my mind, not have things taken out of context, and we want to have some fun and push the boundaries, there is a little bit of sympathy, because I understand kind of the sentiment behind the imagery, let's say. The sentiment behind the imagery. But this is, I guess, what the left would call tone deaf. There's a million reasons why this is really inappropriate, and certainly inappropriate at this particular moment in time. I'm not going to say the idea of, parodying violence to a presidential figure is always wrong. I saw a lot of people come out and say that, and say, well, you should never do this about your president. Like, no, I mean, that would rule out satire, satirical cartoons. That would rule out documentaries. There's a documentary called Death of a President, and people will probably forget this. A lot of people did. Sorry, I'm just going to fucking die quietly. A lot of people will probably forget this, but there was a documentary called Death of a President. Death of a President was an exploration of what happened when George Bush was assassinated. Okay? And this was a documentary made by Channel 4 Films, if I remember rightly. Let me just get up the Wikipedia page for it. It was directed by Gabriel Range. Yeah, it was the production company was Film 4. That's Channel 4's movies in the UK. And this came out in 2008, and it was basically a mockumentary of George Bush having been fatally shot by a sniper, right, when he was at an economic forum. And this was kind of when there was still all this anti-war sentiment. We'd still not really found the WMDs. We still had this long, complicated situation in Iraq. And, the Patriot Act was pissing everybody off still. So this was a movie that kind of explored, what would happen if a president got assassinated? What would happen if a president got assassinated? And it was kind of subversive as well, because they intimated throughout, because it was anti-war, that it'd be like an anti-war activist, or it'd be like a Muslim radical, or it'd be a member of Al-Qaeda. And then I think at the end, the twist is the assassin was a U.S. soldier, a former U.S. soldier whose son had been killed in the Iraq War or something. And it was kind of saying, the American people have cause to be pissed off with the president way more than the outliers, the outsiders, that we often attribute this kind of hate to. Now, it was a box office flop. The film wasn't particularly well marketed. It was more of a TV kind of thing anyway. It didn't recoup half the money that it cost to make. And there was a little bit of moral outrage. There was a little bit of, you know? People were like, again, kind of how dare you? But the film was pretty much defended on the grounds that you have to be able to explore these things. And I, at the time, supported this artistic sentiment. So it would be incredibly hypocritical of me to stand here now, you know, what is it, 8, 9 years later, and say that what Kathy Griffin has done is completely unacceptable within any context. Here's the problem. In the current climate, in the context, if everything around you is the context, then you have to condemn this. You have to say this was not the thing to do. There was a million ways you could have made it better, you know? I mean, more subtle perhaps would have been even just holding up the wig, the toupee thing Donald Trump wears, you know, with maybe a little bit of blood on it, implying he's been scalped or something, you know, just something a bit more subtle. But I'll get into some of the reasons why I think this picture is bad now and why it's tone deaf now. So first up, the similarities to ISIS videos.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that anybody would think that is something that you would take a mainstream comedic figure and sort of make jokes about. And I remember, you know, this has been a contentious subject. You'll not hear a lot of comedians really touch ISIS jokes. Because the problem you've got is, while humor would be a good way, if you like, to kind of diminish the power of terrorism. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, there's too high levels of empathy around that. It's got to be one of the most horrific things. You can empathize. You can put yourself in that situation of being, you know, taken hostage, kept in an orange jumpsuit, and then ritualistically beheaded on camera, on video, for a whole world to see. Your family not being spared that indignity of everybody seeing your final moments. Something that's usually private and intimate, and something you wouldn't even necessarily want your whole family to see, let alone the whole world. Then just, of course, the savage brutality of a beheading. And I've put myself through this. I've watched a few beheading videos when they've been released by ISIS. It's pretty fucking horrible. It's pretty much as you'd expect. It's not nice. And you know, I've watched that to kind of get a handle, a perspective on it, and they're truly awful. I mean, there's a real visceral brutality to doing that to somebody else, and unfortunately, we live in an environment where jihadist extremists are looking to do this to people. Now, I'm not saying, oh, trigger warnings, right? But here's what I'm saying. There has to be a contextual sensitivity to the climate in which you exist. And I think holding up a bloody severed head of anybody for a goof at a time when it's a very real fear. It's something that's going on. It's not just happening to Westerners. It's happening to Muslims who unfortunately have to coexist with these awful, oppressive caliphate offshoots and brutal regimes. I remember Billy Connolly made a joke about Ken Bigley. You remember Ken Bigley?
Yeah. One
of the more famous ones. But that was back when ISIS atrocities were kind of more rare. They're becoming increasingly mundane, which I guess is the real terrifying thing. But Billy Connolly did a joke where I think he got up and he said, I go on the news to see Ken Bigley every morning and I'm disappointed he's not dead yet. And what he was saying kind of was a comment on, you know, the news cycle, how ridiculous it was that we had a government who don't negotiate with terrorists, weren't realistically making any effort to bring this person home, and yet we had rolling news coverage of him every morning, sat there in his orange jumpsuit. And Ken Bigley was eventually beheaded and killed, at which point, if I remember correctly, Billy Connolly kind of jettisoned that piece from his routine. But he was absolutely, you know, this is Billy Connolly, one of Britain's most beloved comedians, and he was absolutely fucking wrecked for that. And I think, you know, in a way, kind of rightly so. I don't want to say there's anything off limits. And this is what I mean. It's such a tricky area to negotiate, and I'm trying to be sensible about it. But I think we all understand as a society at any given point where the line is. And right then, right there, when thousands of people were waking up every morning to follow the story of this person who'd been held hostage, when politicians were coming out trying to lobby the government to do a hostage negotiation, the family were just hand-wringing, crying, miserable. And then eventually it culminates with a horrific, grisly death. I think while that is in your cultural zeitgeist, maybe that joke's off the table. People didn't come out after 9/11 and on day one, fucking hell, the skyline, house prices, you couldn't do it. People would call you a fucking monster. And again, probably rightly so. People grieve. So it's a tough one. But there's that. So we do exist in a time where people are terrified by the prospect of extremist terror. This is a callback to jihadism, to ISIS beheadings, to these atrocities with which nobody should have to exist, knowing that this is a possibility for even a small percentage of the world's population. So there's that. Second of all, I don't know if you've been following, Miss Griffin, what's been going on in America, but the political divide is the biggest it's ever been. And this has been measured in recent studies. Republicans and Democrats now find less common ground on the issues than they used to. And this comes at a time when, I'm not just going to say the left, because that would be a lie. This comes at a time when political violence on both sides is becoming alarmingly frequent. Different kinds of violence in different situations. But I can't just put it all on the left. I'll talk a little bit about them, especially more in just a moment, but let's talk about some of the things that have happened recently. Problems haven't gone away that have existed under the surface. We have had right-wing people turn up and shoot Indian men. We have had people arrested in the state I live in for turning up with a gun to a fucking kids' party and screaming racist rhetoric and nonsense and saying Trump's here, it's our time. These things are happening. Right. And it's not just about left and right. It's about extremists and extremism. Now, I will say the left, which was always traditionally an ideology of peace, a party of peace, a group that believed in peaceful means to achieve their goals, they've been whipped up into a frenzy of violence. And it's new to them and it's fresh. And we see Antifa on the streets at every rally, every protest, beating up anyone wearing red, anyone who looks like they might be a Trump supporter. We had an 18-month election cycle where the press basically said it was okay to destroy Trump signs, to rip off Trump hats, to pepper spray Trump supporters, to beat them with sticks and bats, to destroy their property, to shut out Trump supporter speakers, to burn your whole university to the fucking ground if necessary, to stop these people from speaking. Just the other day, days before this photo shoot, we have the awful fucking story about the guy who got stabbed to death in Portland. A story which everybody has fallen over themselves to cover falsely and pin an agenda to it. Here's what happened. A fucking nutcase of no fixed ideology, actually, because he was seriously mentally ill, went into a public place, caused a scene, said some awful things to some Muslim women who were minding their own business. A man tried to intervene and protect them and was stabbed in the throat, and he bled out on the train. Now, everybody was falling over themselves because initially it was reported he was a Trump supporter, because that's what they do, don't they? They hate Muslims, don't they? They're violent, aren't they? Well, that's not true, actually. And you can't make that sweeping statement. But then it came out that the guy was a Bernie supporter. Okay? And then the right pushed back and they go, well, you're lying. That's fair. The press did lie. The press did put false information out about it. But guys, like, how are we attaching the fact that he was a Bernie supporter to this? He on his Facebook posts, he was even saying, I hate Hillary Clinton for what she's done to immigrants and how she stopped immigrants coming in this country. I mean, he was all over the place. You can check this out, Sam. Here's like a compilation of his Facebook posts. Okay. So the reality of, and you can just scroll through these while I'm talking, the reality of politics leading to violence in America has never been more apparent. It's never been more real. This is a news story that's still in the news cycle right now. And to come out and effectively, in one gory, visceral image, advocate for violent upheaval, this is the wrong time, Kathy. This isn't the time for this. This really isn't. People are fucking scared, dude. Like, people are fucking scared to go out on the fucking streets and express their political views. They think they're going to get fucking killed. The left think this. Why do you think they've gone so hysterical? Why do you think they're reeing all the time and shrieking? They honestly believe they are fighting for their lives. You know, I've had this. I've got trans friends who tell me Donald Trump wants to put trans people in camps. I don't know where they're getting this from. There's nothing to substantiate this, but people are fucking scared. And they're scared because there is this swirling maelstrom of media bullshit. Pick a fucking side and let's fight to the death. Well, that's not what politics is about. That's never what it's been about. And you come out and you think now is the time, with bodies still on fucking morgue slabs, not even buried. Let's sever the head of Donald Trump. Let's do it. Violence. Because you see, when you hold up a severed head of Donald Trump, you don't just mean Trump. You don't mean Trump the man. You mean Trump the following, Trump the movement. What you're saying is anybody who embodies Donald Trump, it's okay to kill them. This is an incredibly dangerous message at this time, where Trump supporters honestly don't even feel like they can ever confess that dark little secret. Imagine that. I've never seen this before. I saw proud George Bush supporters. George Bush, one of the most evil presidents who ever ruled America, George W. Bush. He took what Nixon did and he just fucking obliterated it. He just smashed it out the park. He had a war predicated on self-interest. He brought into realization bills that impinged on all of our privacy. I mean, the groundwork of the NSA, which sure, Obama certainly had a lot of fun continuing, all goes back to the Bush administration. Go look at what happened with Halliburton. Go look at what George Bush did when he was the governor of Texas, the most ever executions of any governor to preside over Texas, including the first time Texas had executed a woman in something like God knows how many years, 80 years or something. And when she begged for clemency, she got a personal audience with George Bush. She was crying, saying how her husband had beaten her for years, for decades, and she snapped and killed him. Please just show me mercy and don't kill me. Just commute my sentence to life. And George Bush was going, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, ooh-hoo-hoo, while she cried. This guy, people are saying, let's go, I wish we had George Bush back. People have lost fucking perspective. People have got the memory of a goldfish. We sit there and we watch this continuing news cycle that is impossible to keep up with. It's impossible to keep up with it. It's a news story every 5 fucking minutes. Even now, while I'm awake, drinking bourbon, pouring over my expenses in the middle of the night, Donald Trump's done a typo. He's done a typo. What was it? Convefi or something? Covefi or something. Yeah, Covefi. Because he was going to say coverage. And he typed it wrong. And it's a trending hashtag and everyone's talking about it and memeing about it. People are saying, is he drunk? Has he had a stroke? This is the climate within which we live. And
again,
throwing
probably not him on his account. Let's fucking make that clear again. Mentally ill.
When you fucking throw a fucking severed head into the mix, what that photograph says to me is, if Trump was killed, it'd be better for America. If Trump supporters were killed, it'd be better for America. And I don't think that's the message you want to spread right now when people are literally out there beating Trump supporters on street corners. And it's definitely not the message you want to send when we've still got right-wing nutcases running around with guns, shooting people because they feel under threat because you're telling them we're coming for you. And when we get you, we're going to chop your head off. So naturally, this blew up. And let me just say, by the way, I've never been so fucking disappointed with a lot of these right-wing commentators because this was a chance to take the moral fucking high ground. And it's rare we have that opportunity with a media that is 90% opposed to right-wing ideology. You know what we should have done? We should have said, First Amendment rights, it's a bit irresponsible. It's not the message I would send right now. And I hope appropriate action will be taken. But what I saw was this type of screeching hysteria that I associate with the left. I watched people, I don't want to name them because I swim in these circles. And I know they'll get sensitive about it because they don't want to be compared to leftists and liberals. But I'll tell you, I saw people who have decried this type of behavior saying, oh, CNN must denounce Kathy Griffin. They must fire her. CNN is ISIS. What? What are you talking about? You might not like the coverage of the news network. Let's be clear. Kathy Griffin hosts the end-of-year special once a year at CNN. Calling her an employee is fucking tenuous. And you're demanding that, you know, all today, people saying, message the advertisers for a network that employs her for once a year. And yet, obviously, I work for an offshoot of the company that owns CNN. But you guys know, this isn't, I'm not saying this because of that. No one's called me up and said, hey, you know what would be great in your podcast? I don't matter that much. I'm just a very small cog in a big multinational machine. It's just what's right, isn't it? We're not meant to be doing that. What we're supposed to be saying is, yeah, that's a bit too far. You're really contributing to the culture of fucking violence, and you should probably think and stop about it. And we should just take the moral high ground, poke a bit of fun at them, and leave it there. But when you start saying these patently false things and making these kind of insane leaps, you know, saying anybody that supports Kathy Griffin is a supporter of ISIS, how do we get there? What does that mean? How are we even at that point? It's garbage. And it's garbage we're supposed to be above. And it shows you that when you become a fucking demagogue and you get that following and people will blindly follow you off that cliff, man, it's hard. It's real fucking hard to keep a perspective and to be fair and to be balanced and to be objective. Because you picked a side and all that matters is winning, right? I see this all the time. I have this conversation with journalists and they don't get it. I had a conversation with a journalist just yesterday. I won't name them again, but they written a piece about someone else. It was like a hit piece and it contained things they hadn't verified. And they knew they hadn't verified them. And they said, well, I'm going to leave them in there until they're proven false. And I'm like, that's not how journalism works, dude. Why are you doing that? And they said, yeah, well, you know, they're always having snipes at us, aren't they? On their side. That's how the whole thing gets fucked. That's how you take something that matters and you just piss on it. You just fucking destroy it. You stamp on the pissy mess that's left and you just turn it into a big pissy pulp. It's gone. It's gone forever. You don't get it back. If you don't care about the tenets of journalism and objective truth, if you don't care about those things, get the fuck out of journalism because you're going to kill it. We already exist in a terrible time, but people just see sides now. They don't care about principles. That's why this Kathy Griffin things is so fucking ridiculous. So let's just stop with that. I think, look, those are my feelings, right? That's just raw, unfiltered. That's how I feel about it. I don't necessarily condemn it as an act of itself, but I think right now doing that is pretty much beyond tone deaf. Now, CNN have said, we're not going to have her at the New Year's show, which she's hosted since 2007. That's like a decade under her belt. This, I think, would have been the anniversary show. She's already she has a show at a casino, the Route 66 casino or something. That's gone. People are pushing. They're trying to take everything away from Kathy Griffin. And again, I don't like that. I don't like when that happens, all right? But that being said, you got to pay the piper sometimes. And I think what she did is a potentially dangerous message. And, they've been condemned. They said when Donald Trump said, rough him up, get him out of here, that he was contributing to violence with violent rhetoric. They believe that there's a connection with images and words and actual real life violence. And if you believe that, and if you follow that through logically consistent, this is appalling. You're encouraging murder by your measures. By your belief system, not by mine. So she's lost a fair bit. One of the things that did fucking really kind of, I thought this was so strange. There was people out there saying, why all the fuss? When this happened to Obama, nobody cared. And I was like, well, fucking hell, did it happen to Obama? And I went and did some research. And indeed, there was an incident where a rodeo clown at a Missouri fair had an Obama mask. I'll show you the image. Okay. There it is.
Was it beheaded, though?
No. Now, that was enough. That image there was enough to get the whole Missouri fair to have to agree to have cultural sensitivity training. Right. So then I looked up and also people were bringing up instances where there'd been sightings of lynched Obamas. Now, obviously, Obama, first black president. I don't know if, again, you know about this, but there was a dark time in American history where there was racist groups of people, back when they had power and presence in neighborhoods and weren't just marginalized, sad old men who were going to die and their ideology was going to die out with them, before we had the civil rights movement, that kind of thing. There was these groups, and what they would do is that a particular way they liked to intimidate and kill black people was lynchings. They were called lynchings, and it literally is what it sounds like. You string up somebody by their neck in a very sort of gross hanging, and you leave them to die, usually from a tree, and you leave their body there as a message to other people of color that their kind will not be tolerated. One of the most disgusting ways to intimidate and kill somebody. No dignity in that. Like, it's not quick. Awful. So as a result of that, the images of the first black president being lynched definitely would upset a few people, and rightly so, right? Because of that historical connotation. Don't have an issue with you being upset by that. There was this one here in a neighborhood where somebody had hung Barack Obama, from his from a pole on his house, on his property. There was also another instance here, again, at a fair, where it was Obama is killing America. And there he is then. They've lynched Obama again, haven't they? Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe this is just a hanging, not a lynching. But unfortunately, the two things are so similar visually. You burn an effigy, maybe. I don't know. If you got to. But if you got to. Maybe don't, but if you got to. And there's other instances. I think there was one at a Broncos game. I don't know. But look, there's a few out there. You go find them. And people are going, well, nobody cared when this happened. Well, clearly they did. These made news coverage. These were written up as news stories. That's how I know about them. The Missouri one with the Obama rodeo clown made national news. So people did care. But here's the thing. Can you see the difference between some fucking moron, a nobody, just a average Joe taking a clear, stupid rubber mask of Obama, putting it on what's clearly a mannequin again, and stringing it up and taking a photo of it, and a known public figure holding up a severed, realistic-looking bloody Donald Trump head? Like, hopefully we can all see the difference between those two things, right? It's the fact that she's a public figure. It's the fact that this was done specifically to get national media coverage. That was the point. They thought this was going to be okay. They were just going to roll that out. Hey, guys, look at this hilarious photo shoot. This is just a moron doing something at a local fair. They don't matter. They don't influence the cultural zeitgeist. In fact, if those photos don't exist at all, nothing happens. They probably get reported to their local authorities anyway, because let's be real. It's not like, you know, there's not a big crowd. They're all chanting, you know. It's so these things are different, and people are trying to deflect. This is the other thing that happens no matter which side you're on. That we know what we did is wrong, but what about the times you did all of this shit? Pretty childish, isn't it, guys? Why not do? Yeah, that's just wrong. And I got to give a lot of liberal commentators some credit here. A lot of them actually condemned what they did. If you go through, it was like, yeah, pretty hard to defend that. Sorry. And then it's just like the right-wing commentators turn into a bunch of shit-flinging apes. It's like, yeah, we got him on the ropes.
We got him.
Come on, man.
Take the jobs quick.
It's just so dumb, isn't it? Like, what are you behaving like that for? This was an issue where everybody agreed, and we've still made it divisive. That's a fucked up political discourse in the States is. Also, got to say, don't know if you saw this, and this is what I mean also about the whole, we keep plumbing new depths, but there was rolling coverage this morning about how Baron Trump, which still sounds like a great villain, by the way, doesn't it? You got this Baron Trump, like big monocle, like that, right? Baron Trump thought it was real, apparently. Yeah. Okay. So just to give you an idea, to link everything together in the show, like I mapped these out, and it's not just a disjointed train wreck in my mind. Baron Trump's 11, yeah?
He didn't think it's real, did he?
No, obviously it didn't happen. But let's just pretend, right? Baron Trump, 11 years old, he saw a photo of Kathy Griffin holding up a fake Trump severed head, and he said, fucking hell, I thought it was real.
Yeah, imagine how stupid you have to be to think your dad, who is the president, was murdered and beheaded by a comedian, and nobody would tell you in the morning.
I know, mad, isn't it?
Wait till after breakfast, shall we?
But I mean, then think about Mason Cross's 11-year-old who understands the particulars of the Articles of the Geneva Convention.
Exactly. Trump's obviously done that as well as Mason, mate.
Weird, isn't it? But let's just let's just go here to the Twitter coverage, because you're right, Sam. He didn't think it was real. He didn't think it was real. But it's interesting, isn't it, when people talk about children? They talk about children, and we say, oh, think of the children, think of the children. Won't we think of the children? When we attack political figures, remember they have children. I saw, what's her name? NYT Maggie Haberman. So Maggie Haberman, the New York Times. You know our good friend Anthony Weiner?
Yeah.
Right. She put a tweet out where she said, keep in mind, by the way, Maggie Haberman was named in the WikiLeaks leaks as being somebody the DNC could reliably plant a story with and get favorable coverage from. So she is shill central. If anyone deserved the term shill, it's definitely her. She tweeted out on Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner had been found, pleaded guilty to sexting a minor. He sent inappropriate pictures to a minor. And he admitted to it, and he broke down in court and said, I've got a sickness. Okay? So finally, after all of this whole thing, that it was, it's just, they're trying to distract from the campaign. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he did it. He was completely fucking guilty. Of course he was. Maggie Haberman put a tweet out saying we should remember that Anthony Weiner has a young kid. Well, you know who else was a young kid? The kid he was addicted to. That's the level of I've never heard anyone say that for Baron Trump. Oh, well, when we're shitting on Trump, we should remember he's got a young kid. We even had that Saturday Night Live writer tweeting about how he was going to be a fucking school shooter and all this, like. So it's interesting, again, that we can't even be consistent on our respect of children. Now, Baron Trump didn't believe his dad had been beheaded. There's no way. There's no way. What world would you wake up and be like, Mom, look, Kathy Griffin just killed Dad? There's no way. But let's be real. He's old enough to know what's going on in the media. He's old enough to feel that palpable vibe. He's old enough to read the fucking comments. You got Madonna saying she wants to blow up. You know, she's thought a lot about blowing up the White House. Baron lives there, right? You got Snoop Dogg talking about shooting Trump and doing videos with that kind of imagery in. You know, that's the ever balanced.
When's Snoop Dogg gonna grow the fuck up? Come on, no. Snoop Lion, Snoop Dogg, grow the fuck up, shall we?
No, let's be real. I mean, you know, this is a guy who smoked so much weed. He went through a drug psychosis phase where he believed he was the reincarnation of Bob Marley, even though he was alive before Bob Marley died. I think that's not how reincarnation works, brother. I mean, even if it was, you're not, are you? You're not the reincarnation of Bob Marley.
Blazed out your motherfucking mind.
Yeah. You are just absolutely wrecked. But, you know, so you've got this. You've got all of these people talking about violence against his dad and all of this stuff. I saw also other people, like, again, it's this, now let's ratchet it. Let's try and get sympathy. Some people today are saying Baron Trump is on the autistic spectrum. Is that true?
I don't know, but why do I know even if he is? Why am I asked?
Let's just have a look. Yeah, it's all just speculation, of course.
Yeah,
so,
like they're probably saying it because, like, oh, he was nervous. Yeah, when his dad was becoming the president on live TV, I'd be pretty nervous.
Yeah, but this is, again, it's this plea for sympathy, right? Well, because he's on the autistic spectrum, he probably did believe it was real. I mean, that's not necessarily how it works, but okay. So this is, I look at this with the cold eyes of a cynic, right? Because I look at everything with those cold eyes of a cynic. And I kind of feel this is a media play to get some breathing room. That the Trump administration know that they can milk this for a few days and maybe diminish the negative coverage by eliciting the one sympathetic figure. I think we can all agree probably deserves to be a sympathetic figure, and that is Baron Trump. You know, he's done nothing. He doesn't want to be in this situation. Must be awful. I'll just go on the internet today. I'm a normal child having a normal life. I'll go and play some Call of Duty online with my name Trump, with my username Trump, and I've been banned from Overwatch. Fuck, right? But my real name is Trump. It's hate speech now. Sorry, but it's my name. Your name is hate speech. You are the living embodiment of hate speech. And also, I would kill your dad.
Yeah, also, Kathy Griffin beheaded your dad piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't believe me, here's the picture piece.
It's just so wild, isn't it? And nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck about this kid. So I think obviously what they're doing here is that they're trying to get some breathing room by pushing this out and just saying, oh, he thought it was bloody real. When will this stop? Right? And, you know, we've seen other people, like, put it this way. I think it'll work for a couple of days. I think this is a bold strategy and I think it's going to pay off. But let's not fall into the fucking trap of believing that Baron Trump actually thought Kathy Griffin did behead his dad, because it's just not true. All right. So that's the Kathy Griffin stuff. I kind of feel, did I have something else there?
Far Cry stuff.
Yeah, no, but I mean, related to Kathy Griffin.
I don't think so. That I know
No,
of.
probably not. Yeah, I think we can kill it there. I think we can. So what we'll do is we're coming up to the halfway point of the Richard Lewis show. Just as a reminder, we have released yesterday's show moments before coming on air, so it is out on YouTube. If you want to go over and drop a comment, like, subscribe, make sure you haven't been unsubscribed, more importantly. Me and Sam are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the Far Cry 5, that's actually more of a mouthful than I thought it would be, controversy, and how the games media were once again fooled into believing that white supremacists and gaming are synonymous. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back to the Richard Lewis Show. Thanks for sticking with us while we take that ad break. Turns out Black Hoodie was a bad choice in the baking Atlanta heat. I was actually fucking sweltering there. So changed some clothes and got some water. Now, we're going to be talking about something that I'm sure if you're a gamer fan, you'll have already kind of followed little bits and pieces of it. But it just goes to show that there is still this agenda-driven approach to reporting games news, and that's the Far Cry 5 reveal. Now, I'm going to say some shit that might upset some people right at the start. Sam, Far Cry. You ever played it?
No.
You ever played Cry games?
No.
I kind of feel like I remember vaguely playing like I remember Far Cry 2, and just recently, because I had them just on Steam, I was like, I'll just install Far Cry 3 and have a dabble with Far Cry 4, and they're just really boring, generic kind of open world shooters. Like, I just don't like them. I don't, they just don't tickle my pickle. And they did a Far Cry Primal as well, I think, where you hunt dinosaurs or something in the past. And obviously, because that's when dinosaurs lived. Well, I mean, people didn't at the same time, but, mammoths and shit, right? And it just looks, I'm just really underwhelmed. I'm not looking forward to the next Far Cry game. It's not a series that particularly fucking resonates with me. I think they're pretty boring and dull. And that's it. Sorry, it's not dinosaurs. It's just mammoths. My bad. Far Cry fans in the chat getting triggered. No, actually, a primal. Saber-tooth tigers and mammoths, you idiot. From the something age. And whatever. All right. So, Far Cry 5 gets announced. And, Ubisoft just has this fucking conveyor belt approach to these types of open world games now. They've got a formula. You know how it is. You got a fucking overlay map with just a fuckload of dots on it. You're like, oh, look, isn't it great? You can explore and go anywhere. Yeah, you can explore and go anywhere and repeat the same mindless task over and over and over and over again for completion's sake. It's, slightly more sophisticated than one of those clicker games, but probably is not much more. I really find these games low-level engagement. I've never really stuck with one for a prolonged period of time. This isn't like, a GTA with a huge interwoven, sprawling storyline that couldn't, in and of itself, be a movie with different endings, mad little side quests to find. It's not a Witcher 3 with some of the best written quests I've ever seen in any RPG. This is an Ubisoft open world game. You walk around, you shoot things, you shoot 3 things of a certain type, you unlock an ability that makes it easier to shoot things, and now you go to the next zone and you do it again, and oh, look, I'm up a hill, and isn't the view nice? I mean, they're pretty dull. So Far Cry 5 gets announced, and Far Cry 5 is going to be a little bit different to the other Far Cry games, because obviously the Far Cry games are always about going to far-flung islands and places that kind of mirrored real life but weren't real life. And this one is going to be, interestingly enough, set in America. Right? So that's a huge change for the setting. And people are like, well, how are they going to make this work? And they've been doing these teaser trailers. And there was some, it was just like, welcome to this part of America. It's set in the backwoods, and it would be people screaming, or just a nice peaceful scene, and it would be a body suddenly floating down a river or whatever, some things like this. So again, it was playing with your expectations. It was saying that even in these, backwater places in America, there's dangerous stuff happening. There's danger. And that's kind of like something that's been permeated throughout cinema in America ever since Deliverance, probably. Maybe even a little bit further back. I don't really know the history in a backwards direction. I do know kind of post-Deliverance, you know, how every forest person, redneck and Cajun, were always some sort of toothless, deranged rapist, you know. But it's prevalent in cinema, and it starts with something like Deliverance, which is in a way, some people call it an action movie. For me, it's a horror film. For me, I mean, I think Deliverance is a horror movie. You've got, you know, a bunch of people. They go whitewater rafting. They encounter people who are dangerous. One of them gets raped. There's a murder. They have to escape. Not everyone makes it back. It's rough. So for me, it's a horror film. And then, you know, you bring that right the way through to stuff like, I think, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, a family of people just in a house in the middle of nowhere, just straight killing people and eating them, and you know, it's there, and like I imagine Far Cry 5 is going to play on these expectations. But they did this reveal of the artwork, and here it is, and this just sent everybody into a fucking apoplexy, for real, right? So have a look at that art, right? Just have a zoom, do what you got to do, and you know, if you look at the artwork, right, just tell me, Sam, what does that say to you? Like, just have a look at that picture and tell me what it says to you. Like, what vibe do you get? Do you notice anything about it?
They all look like hipsters, man. Like, but they've all got the Nazi haircut that everyone's saying exists nowadays. Short back and sides.
There's a bigger one in case that one's playing up. Bit more high def. Okay, interesting. Do you notice anything else?
Hang on, I'm loading this one.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck? Oh, the cross on the dog? I don't know, the Sinner guy?
Yeah, Sinner, right? Sinner, carved into the guy's back. Yeah.
It's like a fucking spot the difference, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Am I looking for a flat? Oh, Sinner over on the barn as well, mate.
Uh-huh. So basically, this is, first of all, the picture itself is a play on of the Last Supper, right? It's like a pastiche of the famous Last Supper. So we know, you know, it's got Christian overtones. You can see here the person in the middle is doing that Christ-like pose, but he's very, you know, kind of he's got that kind of, you know, Southern, you know, the rhinestone kind of thing, you know, the associated, but with the modern twist, you know, very well groomed, shades. You can see as well, if you look over, this is what blew my mind. A lot of people were like, oh, look, this is obviously a white supremacist group. We'll get into that in a second. You can clearly see somebody, a black man with dreadlocks over on the far right there, having a you know, good time. You got guns, right? And you've got an American flag, but it's not an American flag, is it? You'll see that they have you know, instead of stars, they've got this little symbol here, and that symbol is on the church in the background. And so, I think what you're supposed to associate from this picture is that this is like an offshoot Christian cult of some sort, you know, maybe like the Branch Davidians or something. We can get Christian, you know, from the fact that it's a play on whatever very, you know, popular piece of Christian iconography. You can see Sinner, the concept of atonement and punishing for your sins. You know, it's all there, and there's some cross imagery and this kind of thing. So when this came out, this piece of artwork, I was like, well, this could be interesting, you know, but probably not that interesting. I think what they've done is they've just basically took kind of the whole redneck, hick, cult kind of, you know, things we've seen before, and that's just going to be who the bad guys are, and it's going to be set in the middle of nowhere. You can see there's mountains and a huge, vast range. So that's how they're going to be like, oh, it's kind of secluded up there, and these guys can get away with doing anything, and they kind of run the town. I mean, that should be the end of the analysis, really, right? But it doesn't work that way. What actually happened was people just went fucking mental and started writing articles about how finally Far Cry 5 was going to attack white supremacy, how it was going to attack Trump supporters. Right? Let this sink in. So I'm gonna try and I'll show you. Just I've got a collection here of some of the just absolute madness. Feminist frequency, of course, you can rely on them for madness at any given point. Hard to believe Anita Sarkeesian is still a thing at this stage. You know, haven't we debunked her enough? That she's, you know, took money, not lived up to promises. She's said multiple ridiculous things. We all know she's scripted. She's bored. We've got video of her not only admitting to not be a gamer, but also admitting to being a telemarketing, you know, kind of promoting a telemarketing course for better public speaking and how to convince people of shit. You know, at this point, I think we can just safely just rule out anything she has to say. She's a fraud, but whatever. Feminist frequency. We're curious to see if Far Cry 5 engages critically with the white supremacy inherent in militia movements, or just uses it for set dressing. Well, I don't want to disappoint anybody over at Feminist Frequency, but this is an Ubisoft game. It's a Far Cry game. They're not really known for engaging critically with anything. You just shoot stuff. That's how you fix every problem in Far Cry. You sneak, you kill, you level up, you rinse and repeat. Not sure where they're getting the whole white supremacy thing from. I don't understand that.
They did cut out the side of the picture with the black guy, yes.
Selectively remove the black guy from the picture, which I say is very reductive and borderline racist, by the way, Feminist Frequency. White supremacy is maintained through violence. It's hard to imagine a game critiquing that in which you win by being better at violence. Well, yeah, it might be hard to imagine that. Again, you're barking up the wrong tree. If you want a textual analysis of the white supremacy inherent in militia movements, then, you know, this probably isn't going to be the game for you. Nor should you really be looking at a Far Cry game, knowing the genre and thinking that. What else have we got? There was NeoGAF, of course. Well, what actually happened was at NeoGAF, they were loving the idea. NeoGAF is obviously a popular, gaming forum. Used to be a popular gaming forum, and they were saying that this was genius. Now, oh, brilliant, right? And we can't wait to shoot all these Trump supporters and white people. It's going to be amazing. And you can just see here, people, again, I'll give you the initial thread. And in this thread, there's lots of posts gleefully saying, yeah, I'm going to get to shoot white supremacists. It's like Punch a Nazi, the game. I can't wait. I can't wait to play this game. Far Cry 5, this is brilliant. Right? Somebody said not every white Christian who lives in rural America is an alt-right nut job. But that's typically where you do find alt-right nut jobs. It's almost as if you may as well just not say the first part of your sentence. It's like kind of saying, not every stereotype is true, but stereotypes are generally true. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point in that? Right? So loads of people were just getting like, yeah. Right? Someone even photoshopped. You can see, I'll give you this one. Someone even said, can't wait to play this game, kill some Trump supporters. I've even made this picture, just have a look. And it's Donald Trump and Steve Bannon. Spice is in there. It's like, yeah, we're going to kill them all. Then they found out that somebody pointed out, hang on a minute, for a white supremacist group, they're not doing a particularly good job of that because there's a black guy in the group, and the enemies, apparently it was leaked that the enemies are going to be mixed race. Yeah, so just have a look at some of this. I guess people assumed this would be an alt-right kill simulator. Yup, people just hoped for that and now say Ubisoft wussed out because they've gone for a more mainstream setting. Again, I would say any game that was like, hey, let's go kill these very real, normal people, right? You can see here, look, these, the bad guys are just cultists and not Christian extremists, really takes the teeth away from the premise. Agreed. This is disappointing. My game.
Garrett Hawk.
Yeah. I'm kind of bummed out that they aren't hyper-conservative Christians who I fantasize about killing daily. Right? But I'm the good guy, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the good guy.
We are fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Someone replied to that comment saying, yup, my interest for this game has plummeted. Right? I thought we were going to murder the Christian Taliban that so many in our country want to be in control. Well, the Greek freak, you've got a good handle on what's going on, haven't you? You've got your foot here and your fingers all the way over here, you fucking lunatic cunt. What is wrong with your brain? So, all right, fair enough. That's just, one, that's just like kind of one forum. But there was lots of stuff that was going on. Hang on, let me just got another one here. What other nonsense was being written about this? Keep in mind, this is all just based on the artwork as well. Here we go. This was another one. Polygon, of course, were in there. And let me just get a link. Got an archive of that here. They wrote an article kind of decrying that Ubisoft weren't taking it seriously enough. How dare they use these very real, dangerous things as marketing tools? Right? So keep in mind, first of all, we know nothing about the actual ideology of the cult in the game. Right? It's not been disclosed. Right? I imagine it will be toothless. It's almost if the game just wants to be, pretty bland and just sell copies. Like, that's Ubisoft's mantra, really. Be bland, sell units, So, let me just scroll down, because there's some good lines in here. Right. In blending the iconography of Christianity and American militia to create a sort of homegrown bad guy, Ubisoft is tapping into decades of anxiety over militia groups like the Montana Freeman, the Branch Davidian-like cults, and a President Donald Trump-fueled era of fear. Again, all right, I don't remember Donald Trump being associated with a Christian militia group. I must have missed that in his history. A guy from New York, a billionaire businessman from New York. At what point do they even think about this? This is chalk and cheese. A Montana Freeman, a Branch Davidian cultist, would despise what Donald Trump was. They don't like the city folk, right? I mean, you can't have it. How does this work? But no, apparently it's all the same. Like Polygon. There's no nuance. There's no, And then it says, at least that's what its marketing seems to be doing. But I have doubts that this latest Far Cry game can offer a substantive examination of the roots of that fear, or even deliver any sort of cathartic release from it. Fear of zealots, of militia, even fear of a president is nothing new in America. The country's had spasms of fear over a multitude of presidents, from Roosevelt to Clinton and Obama. But right, so it's like, okay, so this stuff's this could be sane. But this era of Trump has already brought with it a realization of some of those fears and a whole host of new ones to worry overnight. See, I thought it was going to be sensible. It's almost as if anxiety about the powers that be was something. But no, all right, Polygon. So basically, it continues to talk about this game, and it says this is a game, we're told, born out of very serious events and concerns, but it appears to deliver more playground of destruction than examination of issues. It rides the back of very real worries, but glibly plays loose with the facts. Dude, it's fucking Far Cry. Playground of destruction. That could be what the game is called. That's the whole point. It's meant to be fun. It's the cathartic release is just, right, I'm just going to crash a Jeep into 50 people, spray them all down, right, I've unlocked an achievement, and then I go to bed, jerk off, and I got work in the morning. Why? These people want these game developers to literally make games where it's just a guy looking at the screen seriously and just lecturing you about why you're wrong. And why you're a white supremacist for 6 hours. Genius! It's genius, I tells you. Nobody would want to play that fucking game. Games are both art and escapism. Not every game has to have a serious message. And if a game was all message and no mechanics, it wouldn't sell, because that's not what people want. What's great about the medium is that you marry interactivity, mechanics, that tactile engagement with something cerebral. That's the point of a game. That's what makes it a great art form. What you're requesting, what you want, would be to take the art form backwards. In fact, you know what you want? You want a movie. You want a book. Go get one of those things. They're out there. They exist. Why does my game need to be a sociological text? I don't want that. People don't want that. Games like that don't sell. You can jerk off and fucking give fake reviews to every walking simulator that your fucking Patreon buddies have put out, but it will not change the market and it will not change the medium, Polygon. Never will. And then just here, just to play us out, this strikes me as a game meant to serve as a sort of siren song to the extreme far right. Oh, calling all Nazis and alt-righters, coming by Far Cry 5. That's not what it's doing, is it? It's not doing that. That's blatantly not what it's doing. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that it's like they're the baddies and what? Come and play. There's racism within. You'll love it. Right? So this strikes me as a game meant to serve as a sort of siren song, the extreme far right, blasting that vocal group and its media with imagery it can't help but write about, talk about, give free advertising to, all while despising it. Put another way, when the worst fears born of cults, militia, and extreme views of Trump's America become little more than an entertaining play space for the latest video game, perhaps it's time to reconsider how we judge entertainment. Or perhaps it's just time to just consider how, whether Polygon should exist. I don't know. Because you're just crazy and everything you write is garbage. So again, just think about that. Think about that. If this game was literally decrying Trump supporters, if it literally was kill a Trump supporter, the game, they would love it and go, wow, it raises a great, interesting question. Because they've decided to take a more moderate route, it's bad. It's bad. You're not allowed to do that. Let me see. Vice. Yeet. Gotta love a bit of Vice. All right. What is Far Cry 5 about? Far Cry 5, the game. So far, we've had 4 teaser trailers, an art reveal, and very limited interviews from Ubisoft about the development of the game. Let us make some grand proclamations, ladies and gentlemen. Some grand proclamations. What is this game about? Vice, no. Austin Walker. Far Cry 5 is about living under fear in America. Of course it is. What a fucking idiot. Should have seen that one coming. The game will put the player up against a Montana-based cult and militia that has plenty of real-world analogs. Does it? This is what happens if you never leave your liberal coastal city. You don't go to the Rust Belt. You think that it's like, okay, I go to work at the factory, I drive my truck, I go to church Sunday, and then on Tuesday nights, we have the super secret cult meeting. That's it. Life in the Rust Belt. That's what these people believe. They've never lived a real day in their life. They've never done a hard day's work in their life. They've never traveled their own country. They've probably been to Europe more times than they've been to the Rust Belt. That's all you need to know. These guys are fucking idiots. Anyway, he says, right. So first of all, yeah. Dan Hay, creative director and executive producer of Far Cry 5, is standing in front of a TV displaying the word pressure written out in all caps. Pressure. He's telling a room of games journalists about the game he's wanted to make since the 2008 recession, one that engaged with the rise of rural American militias during Obama's presidency. What if, Hay said, one of these groups so dedicated to preparing for the end of days decided to actively push for it instead? So again, he's not talking about Trump supporters or anything like that. He's talking about doomsday preppers. And, you know, these people are fucking weird and fucked up and crazy. I agree with it, the doomsday preppers. And again, it's an interesting premise, isn't it? What if a cult was so well prepared for doomsday, they said, hey, let's start doomsday. I think we got everything we need. Got the water, got the bunker, right?
Let's go.
Yeah, but he said he couldn't find enough support for the game because the core premise seemed unrealistic. After all, the world, the Western world, it implied was a global village. So the premise of this article is that only in Trump's America could this game get made, which of course just simply isn't true. Only with a long-standing, financially successful series could this game get made, because at this point, Far Cry is just a content holder. You just drop shit in, plot is irrelevant. You just squat over it, shit whatever you want in it, close the lid and call it Far Cry. I mean, that's all you have to do. It's a successful series. It's like Call of Duty, right? You just, well, where do you want to have water day? I don't know. Jetpacks and that, right? Sound. Close the box. There you go. It's a new Call of Duty. We've got to release one of these every 12 months. You'll get in one set 8 years in the future with jetpacks. Enjoy. Have it. It's kind of stupid. Don't worry, you'll be upgrading in a year anyway. New one's coming out. Where were you setting this one? Fucking hell, we're running out of wars. Yeah, Korean War. There you go. Oh, wait, fuck, we got mixed up. We meant Vietnam again, whatever. That's just all they do. But the premise of this piece is that only in Trump's America, where we live under so much fear because of these white Christian groups that are on the rise again. I mean, some of the stuff he goes all over the place. It's a zigzag. So look at this. If the rise of militia movements in the years of the Obama presidency is one line on the chart of growing national unease, another is the public conversation about the killing of black and brown folks by police. Whoa. Dan Hay didn't bring this up. Why? Where's this? Why is that going to do with anything? And then he goes, and by vigilantes like George Zimmerman. Like, what? What's this got to do with Far Cry 5, dude? What's this got to do with the artwork of Far Cry 5? What's this got to do with the release of a new generic game? Where does the killing of black and brown folks by police, where does that enter into Far Cry 5? Tell me, oh great one, tell me. Or is this just a list of things you want to talk about and signal about, and you've just decided to take an article that could have been, I don't know, balanced, measured, informative, and you just decided to just shoehorn all your little talking points in. So yeah, talking about that, I don't understand why. Brings up Saturday Night Live's election skits. Keeps talking about it. And then declares, of course, without having played it or anything like that, he says, Far Cry 5 may not be a great game in the end. It probably won't be a great game. And it might bungle all of its potential. But a decade ago, it wouldn't have been made at all. It didn't have the promise of the exotic in it. It contended too much with what were fringe fears. But in the age of Trump, Brexit, all right, and the Bundy standoff, those fears must seem realer to the people greenlighting projects. So AAA games are finally more interested in engaging with them, and that's a step in the right direction. So the game might be shit, but it's a step in the right direction. That's a games journalist. That's how they think in a fucking nutshell, dude. We don't give a fuck if the game's good. We don't even care if the writing's good. We just care that it talks about shit we want to talk about. If a game talks about something we want to lecture you about, it's a good game. Good game. 2 thumbs up. Well, all the gamers are going, yeah, it's actually fucking garbage. Look at the Metacritic reviews. It's garbage. It's shit. Yeah. But I mean, like, it did engage with that. You know, it's a metaphor for Brexit. So 10 stars. Like, Guys, what the fuck? You're meant to be games critics. Critics. Be critical. Think critically. You don't just suck up to something, right? Because it's talking about something that is an important issue to your heart. This can't be the way that you do things. So, interestingly enough, right, there was what they call a petition, right?
For what? I gotta know for what.
Yeah, you're gonna like this. Let me just find it for you. I gotta, because it's so obviously fake. All right, let me just find it. So is this it? I think this is the one. Let me just find. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one. So, with all of this nonsense that was going on, with all of this, like, you know, demagoguery and people just decrying Far Cry 5 is, you know, being this like, oh, finally, we got to kill Trump supporters. And then people being disappointed that you're not actually killing Trump supporters. And then people saying, but what if we imagine they're Trump supporters? And really, what the game is about is Trump's America. Think about it, right? All of this. So some gamers put out this fucking petition, and it was a troll. It's one of the most obvious trolls I think I've ever seen. And you can see here, right? Cancel Far Cry 5. Enough is enough, Ubisoft. We've sat through your multicultural lectures and your preachy games aimed at degenerates, miscegenators, that's pretty good. We've tolerated it in the name of gameplay design and innovation, but no more. Far Cry 5 is an insult to your fan base, the Americans who make up the majority of your customers, and it's time you woke up to that fact. Change this or cancel it. US gamers have had to endure a lot of crap over the last few years. The targeted harassment by the mainstream press through Gamergate, the terrible launch and outright lies of highly anticipated video games, the outright censorship of art through localization policies, the continued rejection of romantic partners when they find out our hobby. Anyone see the warning signs that this is a troll? Anyone see that? The appropriation of our culture by so-called gamers on Twitter. No more! It's time to draw a line in the sand. We, the American gamers that make up the majority of your user base, demand to you cancel this game or alter it to be less offensive to your main player base. In these times, you must understand that there might be some violent repercussions if you intend to follow through with your pointless criticism. So here are the following suggestions to make your game right. Change the villains. It's not so hard, really. Just change the villains to something more realistic. Islam is on the rise in America, as is the violence of inner-city gangs. Are you scared to do so? In the words of Voltaire, to learn who rules you, simply find out who's not being criticized. Then, it says change the villains. Then just alter the villains. I mean, if that isn't the same. Yeah, both change and alter them. Even if you insist on making the villains American Christians, consider mixing the races a bit to not target white people exclusively. There are plenty of nationalists of every stripe and every race and creed. Throw in some blacks and Mexicans. There's no reason a protectionist nationalist movement would all be one race. Why stop being politically correct here? But interesting take on politically. After the plot, or alter the plot. It's obvious that you continue to insist on using these characters. However, with a few artistic tweaks, you can save the concept entirely. Have the villains simply be misguided patriots, forced into making their own nation versus the will of an oppressive overgovernment, construed of all the people they turn their wrath against in their immediate surroundings. Their brutal, physical, and sexual violence towards their oppressors will then be explained as a reaction to harsh government policies and taxation to show that both sides
makes it reasonable then.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when
why did I kill them? 40% of fucking tax, mate. That's why I'm killing people.
when I get overtaxed, I like to get into a flurry of brutal physical and sexual violence. You know, I got an accountant, and now my sexual violence days are over. Change the setting, but only for certain markets. Look, I get that anti-Americanism plays in France, and I'm not telling you to give up on potential profits due to complaints. Wouldn't want to be thought of one of those hypocrite feminists, right? But for again, these are the red flags. But for America right now, anti-Americanism is out. It definitely isn't. You got to play your market. Change the setting to Canada for America. This way, you don't turn away potential players due to offensiveness, just trying to help you make more money. Follow one or more of these, and this game will be saved from PC hell and multicultural development. We Americans have so few games to call our own, and we're tired of losing them to multicultural bullshit. Right? Okay, so this was obviously a fake, and I mean you can see that, right? Like, yeah. Nobody would put this out. And what it did is it ticked the boxes of what the mainstream media believe gamers to be. They believe they're white nationalists. They believe they're unilaterally anti-Islam. They believe they hate feminists. They believe that they're all incels, involuntarily celibate. They believe all of these things, and people saw this. And I'm not kidding. If you ever want to know, right? We didn't end corruption in games journalism when we exposed the that group, the Game Journo Pros email group. We didn't end it there. They still have groups. I know this because much like what happened with the Milo Yiannopoulos hit piece, where 8 articles dropped within 8 minutes of each other, like it was all pre-written, and it was a coordinated attack. The same thing happened with this petition, and most of them reported that this petition was real. They didn't question it, they didn't check it, and There's a website called deepfreeze.it, deepfreeze it. If you go check it out, this is basically a database of all the examples of journalistic corruption, collusion, and impropriety that we've had in gaming reporting. Now, I got this list courtesy of a good Twitter account I recommend you follow. If you're a weeb, you'll fucking love it. At Mombot, it's best mom ever. She helped expose a bunch of like SJW fuckery and harassment by faking a bunch of details about them and then saying stuff they didn't like, and they doxed this individual with fake details that they'd planted. So this is the tweet in question. So COG connected. Baffling petition against Far Cry 5 bubbles to surface. Cultured vultures. Change petition started to cancel Far Cry 5 because of multicultural bullshit. GameChup.com. There is a petition that demands cancellation of Far Cry 5. GameZone.com. Someone made a petition to cancel Far Cry 5. The IGN vertical in Germany. Far Cry 5 petition fordert den Islam als Feind. Now, we've got Germans in the chat. You can translate that for me. My German isn't sophisticated enough, but I'm guessing it's what? Far Cry 5 petition.
For Islam to be the new villain.
Fiend. Yeah, Feind. Yeah, could be Fiend. Yeah. Is Islam all villain? Maybe, whatever. International Business Times. Deranged petition calls for Far Cry 5 to be cancelled because its villains are white Americans. TwinInfinite.net. Someone has created a petition to get Far Cry 5 cancelled. GamePer.com. Cancel Far Cry 5 petition. A whole new level from racism to craziness. GameReactor.eu. Far Cry 5 draws criticism for a religious angle. Comicbook.com. Petition calls for Ubisoft to change Far Cry 5 villains to Muslims or change setting to Canada. GamesTransfers.com. Far Cry 5. A petition asking Ubisoft to cancel the game. TheWolfHole.com. There is an actual petition going around to cancel Far Cry 5. GearNuke.com. New petition demands Ubisoft to cancel Far Cry 5, calls it an insult to fans. PressStart.com.au. This bizarre petition is aiming to get Far Cry 5 cancelled. The sixth axis. Please let this enraged Far Cry 5 petition be fake. CraveOnline.com. Far Cry 5 petition says game should be cancelled as it's an insult to Americans. And I'm sure many more have come out after that was made. The only one that I found that actually questioned it was Forbes. Paul Tassi said there's no way this cancel Far Cry 5 petition is actually real. And, of course, it isn't. Let me just see, because there was some updates to the petition, and this happened just recently, and I think they respond to some of this stuff. I think they're still operating on the premise that it's real, though. So just let me have a quick scan of this. Yeah, so the people have edited the petition saying that, yeah, you can pretend that this is a false flag. No. Right, what's interesting is that people have been trying to track down the source of this petition because it was on 4chan initially, and it didn't take. Somebody tweeted it up on 4chan, and it just didn't get that response. It didn't go viral, and then eventually it found its way on a Reddit, and it did. So my point on this is that I simply don't understand how anybody can keep falling for this shit and there's no fact checking going around. I mean, I suppose in a way you're factually accurate if you just say, hey, there's a petition that says this. But, there's lots of petitions that say lots of things. Why is this one the news? In fact, I think some people from Kotaku in Action, I think they made another fake petition saying that, I don't know, something else anyway. People are now playing with the expectation and the subversion. But I just thought it was very weird that, look, something vaguely racist. We can spin this against gamers, and boom, just a flurry of fucking coverage just consistently pouring out about it. So, yeah, it was completely ridiculous. But that was basically the Far Cry 5 coverage. It's insane to think that the reveal of a setting for a game is this politicized. This is, again, the environment in which we live. Games journalists don't want to write about games anymore. They want to write about politics. They can't find any way to do it because they're not credible voices in that space. So they infuse politics into something that realistically doesn't need to be all about politics. Whatever happened to just genuine excitement for a new game release? Hey, this new game's coming out. Could be good. What's wrong with that? Why not just why not just write about that? Why not just say, hey, new game's coming out. These villains look interesting. Ooh, let's find out more. Let's go do an interview. Let's analyze. Let's do an actual textual analysis of what the artwork could mean. Fine, that's valid. But calling it, fucking kill Trump supporters the game, probably bit irresponsible, not accurate at all, actually. So there you have it. So I want to end the show just doing a follow-up. We did a show pretty much that was entirely dedicated to the Evergreen State College situation, and there was something that's been clarified that I think is worth actually exploring because I'll get a good laugh out of it. That that when they said in their lists of demands that they said the video created for Day of Absence and Day of Presence that was stolen by white supremacists and edited to expose and ridicule the students must be taken off the internet. Well, it wasn't the videos that were out there, the camera of the people that were kicking off. It was actually a video by Bearing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what had happened was, here's what I didn't know. So Evergreen had been talked about before this bullshit for being unreal. And I had no idea. I've been reading up on Evergreen and what it is. It's got basically no academic standards. Legit. It's got a 98% acceptance rate or something. So
it take any old shit.
Yeah, and it all starts to make sense now. Evergreen College was created, if you read up on it, it was created basically to be this ultra progressive environment. It's got over 4,000 students there. It's a liberal arts college. And they just accept pretty much anyone who applies, even to the point of if that it's going to go over their admissions for the right marginalized group, they'll try and find a way to do it. And this is what Evergreen's all about. Now, Baring did a video back in April about this because he looked at some of the courses that were there and obviously took umbrage with the idea that having a day of absence, a day of inclusion, having any form of racial segregation on campus is a bad thing. And again, we'll link you to the video. We're not going to play the whole thing, even though it is only 6 minutes long. I don't want to disrespect Baring in that manner. But this is the video, and it's entitled "Liberal College Promotes Inclusiveness Through Segregation." But there was one bit at the end that just had me absolutely buckled, and I'm going to just read it to you because he just puts up a thing. He went through and looked at a list of courses that the university did, and I cannot believe, it all starts to make sense now. Literally. So I'm going to read you some of these courses that are there. So here's one. The Art of Cultivating Voice in Trans Queer Poetry. This is a course. All right. Okay. Well, that's creative writing. So, sure. Maybe you do that. Intersections. The life of a Black queer intersex person. This is a course. It says here, ever thought about what the I in LGBTQIA stands for? I didn't even know
it was there yet. No idea.
Yeah, after the Q, I didn't know, but apparently it's LGBTQIA now. Yeah. When's it gonna stop? When's it gonna stop? I can't do this show anymore. I'm out. It's been 3 days of this show, mate. It's fucking stuff.
We've already got the intersections.
Yeah, now I find out it's LGBTQIA. How am I supposed to cope? How long is that going to get? Wasn't soon enough. Q includes people with
numbers on the end.
Like, why? All right, just give me a minute. Okay, right. Ever thought about what does the I stand for in LGBTQIA? It surely doesn't stand for invisible. Actually, 1.5% of the population is born intersex. We're not rare. Actually, that is the definition of rare, isn't it?
It's pretty rare.
Like if I said this thing happens 1.5% of the time, it's not.
If I had a button that said if you press it, I'll give you 400 bill, and if there's a 1% chance you die. A lot of people hitting that button, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty rare, right? It's pretty rare. We're not rare, just invisible. But you said it didn't stand for invisible. All right. What is intersex? Come learn exactly what being intersex means and how to be an inclusive ally to the community. Again, this idea of being an ally. We reduce your entire existence to being an ally for us. I mean, that's equality, right? Help fight everyday erasure. I always liked them. I always liked that band. I thought they were pretty good. Why are we fighting erasure? Even in the trans and queer community. So apparently, this is how the left will always eat itself. To intersex people, the trans and queers have it so good that they erase us. So they're like, no, you listen here, trans person. You don't know what it's like to be marginalized like me, an intersex person. Oh, you actually medically, biologically, genetically intersex? No, it's a self-diagnosis, but you will listen to me. I am more oppressed than you.
And mentally ill.
While looking at people who hold intersectional identities, specifically being Black and queer, among other things. Bring your questions and get answers from someone who is intersex, Black and queer. And again, this shouldn't be a course, should it really? This is just a Q&A. It should just be a flyer come talk to me in the canteen if you want to know more about it. I'd definitely be interested in knowing more about it, provided you are genuinely genetically intersex. I would actually like to know more about that. I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is your self-diagnosis and claiming how you identify don't necessarily make you fucking so. Doesn't make you an authority on any particular topic, does it? It just doesn't, does it? Anyway, another course here. How Asian Americans contribute to white supremacy. Let that one sink in, because that's a good one. That's a worm that beds itself in your brain. How Asian Americans contribute to white supremacy. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's a good one. Strap yourself in. I want to watch that course. Right, so listen to this, right? I've often thought about Asians in this context and how they're like Schrodinger's person of color. You know, like when it suits the argument, they get co-opted into being a marginalized group. When it doesn't suit the argument, they're actually the one marginalized group that really has been assimilated into helping white supremacy. And it just depends. You know, you can open the box, pressed Asian, oh no, white supremacist Asian. You know, it just depends. You never know what's in the box till you open it, until, you know, whatever SJW is going to say, whatever retarded argument that comes tumbling out of their wretched little bitter mouths. And right, when they did this thing, do you remember there was like a big movement about tech and all the CEOs in Silicon Valley are white men.
Yeah.
And then they did an actual study into it, and it turned out the majority were Asian.
Right.
And they were like, well, yeah, that counts. That's that's literally that is literally what happened. I'm not making that up. That's exactly what happened. They said that was problematic because, you know, it meant the Asian
privilege.
Yeah, right. But they're kind of white sometimes. So, like, what? So I'd love to listen to this. This workshop will provide a brief history of Asian American presence in this occupied land. We will work to understand the model minority construct, as well as the cultural, economic, and political ways American Asians aid white supremacy and derail justice in this country. We'll also discuss some amazing Asian American idols to look up to and research, how to aid the movement, and how solidarity and action exist in our history. Next one up. Intersectional and trans inclusion in feminism, womanism. What I like about this one is the lecturer has included their pronouns. We are creating a space for feminists and womanists. I don't know. To gather, consciousness raise, share stories, and celebrate our accomplishments against supremacist ideology, toxic exclusivity, and strategize against the challenges we face now and in the near future. Doesn't sound that bad, really, I suppose. I'm all right with it. A 101 on race and microaggressions, how white supremacy invalidates us. Oftentimes, racism is talked about in very academic senses that are inaccessible to people who haven't studied race and cultural studies. Let's just get into this. The actual study of racism is racist. You see, because I don't come from that specific academic background, you're excluding me when you talk about the thing that will benefit me and contributing to racism, because the discussion about racism is in itself shrouded within racism because of this segregational aspect. What do you even do anymore? How can I help? Like, what do I need to do? Even the academics that are saying all of this fucked up Fantasyland la shit is real are racist. The people that pump out the white fragility bullshit are trying to help y'all and feeding this fucking nonsense. And you're going, yeah, it's kind of racist though, isn't it? All that language, but exclusion. Oh, fuck, I'm on your side. Like, this is why liberals turn. This is how they get red pilled. You can't win. It's like a fucking onion. There's just so many layers of just gibberish. This workshop is designed to give words to our experiences, especially regarding microaggressions. Discuss how creating academic terms for racism is a tool of white supremacy. Oh, God. Creating academic terms for racism is a tool of white supremacy, because you should use the words that group wants to use, shouldn't you? Honky studies. You know? Do you understand why no one would take that seriously? Do you get it? This is a workshop. This is a workshop designed for people that haven't studied race and ethnic competency. Another one. Know your fascists. Fascist isn't just a way to say meanie, but is a set of racist and nationalist authoritarian ideologies that are often more subtle and dangerous than the Klan Nazi stereotypes. How fortunate. An overview of the history of fascist and white supremacist social movements in Europe and the United States, including the current US alt-right and European far-right parties, how they use populist messages to win followers and effective strategies and tactics by their opponents to expose and stop them. So basically, this is how I, Zoltan Grossman, have recharacterized the word fascist to mean any group that I disagree with politically, and I'm going to explain that in a context and framework that makes some vague sort of sense, so you can go out and do the same thing and be sure to punch a Nazi on your way out of the classroom. By the way, your lecturer is a Nazi. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
And my last name's Grossman.
Yeah, I'm a gross man. Poning Pepe, online safety under white supremacy. Poning Pepe. This is an academic course at college, at Evergreen College. Poning. That's poning. That's like one of the first ever internet memes. You know, this person is still using the Alta Vista search engine. Poning Pepe, online safety under white supremacy. Who owns my data? Good question. Do community, not sure how it fits in with this. Do community guidelines go against free speech? What is the president doing on Twitter? These are hot button topics if you're a student. You know. How can I help people who are being threatened? Bigoted trolling has long been a fixture of internet life, but questions about its impact take on new urgency since the rise of the alt-right. This workshop will look at how racism and technology are connected. I am a cyber racist. I mean, they're not, are they? They're not connected. It's just...
Except for that Microsoft cyber racist they made, mate. When they made that AI and just became a Nazi after a few days. That was pretty cyber. I am cyber racist. That
Windows 9.5 update where it fucking... You know, it started debunking the Holocaust numbers. Technology itself isn't racist. If racists exist, and they exist as just part of society, a very small group of society, and they have access to technology, the technology will become an extension of, it's just what you do. Bronies, okay? I'm sure... I mean, there weren't any bronies before the internet, so it's a bad example, but let's theorize that they were. Bronies, they got internet chat rooms. They do webcamming. No, feed me a fucking sugar cube while you fuck me up. I don't know what they do they? I don't know enough about bronies. I'm in dark territory now. But the point is, you wouldn't say, technology is all about dressing up as a My Little Pony and fucking each other. Because they don't do it. They use the technology to fuel the thing that drives them. The technology itself isn't. Why online harassment is a systemic problem and what concrete steps we can take to protect ourselves and others. The facilitator may touch on the issue of government surveillance, but the primary focus is our engagement with corporations and networks via social media. So in other words, how you can stir up a Twitter storm by complaining about things that aren't real. So, Evergreen suddenly makes sense, doesn't it? Evergreen suddenly makes sense. This is a college where they've pumped out this fucked up type of ideology. They've just literally poisoned the water system. You know, it's there. You're fucked. And it's in your brain. And these people have just been whipped up into this demented frenzy. Even the things they learn about at this college, you know, a lot of them are weird fabrications that literally show them there's shadowy, clandestine, racist organizations among you. Every time you walk around the corner and see two people talking and they look round, they were planning to kill you because they're racist, obviously, and you must do something about it. And all of a sudden you start thinking, well, it's no wonder a fucking crazy, deranged mob full of heads full of nonsense has risen up and fucking took people hostage and made a list of demands. Hey, the police should still go in there and smash them all and arrest them. Like, I'm past the point of sympathy. But at what point are we going to say, do you know what? Maybe we should take a long, hard look at what institutions actually teach. For me, if you are a private school, completely private and privately funded, self-funded, whatever you want to call it, then absolutely teach what the fuck you want. That is something that needs to be true of any business. You know, like if you want to cater to a niche and you fund yourself and there's no state subsidies, tax breaks, whatever the fuck, have at it. If you're a school, privately funded, and you're like, look, we fill everyone's heads full of this bullshit. You know, like them private schools that with fundamentalist Christians that go, yeah, there's absolutely no science in these four walls. Like, you don't even learn about how fire works here.
Welcome to Beyonce school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. You know, like, that's fine. It's privately funded. Evergreen ain't. Evergreen gets state money. So at this juncture, you've got to fucking come in and be like, you're paying money to teach kids bullshit of no academic value. Your students are whipped up into a deranged frenzy and are taking people hostage, probably as a direct result of the fucking nonsense you're pumping into their heads. You, the faculty, are complicit in this, one way or another, either directly. Like some of the black lecturers are like, we fully support this movement. We believe this campus is racist. They employ you. Or whether it's like the fucking cook who runs the whole thing. Stand down, police. Don't try and see if the professors are safe while an angry mob assails them, screaming black power. Stand down, right? Either way, you're all complicit. You should all be facing jail sentences, in my fucking opinion. But certainly, at the very least, you should have your funding pulled. You should all be fucking fired. Go out there. Go into America on the fucking breadline. See how you like that, you fucking fruity liberal fucks. It's beyond a joke. Like, you've got a very privileged, dare I use that word, position. And you're gonna you're pissing us all away by whining about shit that ain't fucking real, and you're empowering groups that are behaving like domestic terrorist organizations for fear of being called what? Like, not a good ally. Reasonable. So good news. There was a report on campus reform today that they are going to go ahead and they're going to propose legislature that Evergreen gets its state funding removed. And I can't wait.
Good.
I will do whatever I have to do. Like, I'll get involved. I'll actually go on the campaign trail for this. I'll be like, sorry, work. I can't come in. I can't do the TV thing. I'm on the campaign trail trying to get some fucking liberal state college defunded. See you reasonable, Richard. All right, you're never working for us again. Yeah, I've lost my mind. Bye. Bye, I've snapped. Bye, I'm off. But please let this happen. Please let this happen. Because get this. Okay, Evergreen gets $24 million. 24. They get $24 million, Sam. 24 million fucking dollars in state funding to behave like this and teach this fucking garbage. Why is this allowed? Why is this allowed? Why are we slashing healthcare to the fucking bone in modern America when this fucking exists? $24 million in state funding. while essential services are ignored so you can make these people LARP as fucking activists. Ha ha, yes, we're fighting imaginary racists. This is great. Watch me punch a Nazi. Did you learn how to do anything? Like, can you even make a fucking cup of coffee without fucking it up? Ha ha, I can't wait to get into society. Please don't.
Don't breed.
Please stay in a fucking home or something. It's like Shutter fucking Island, Sam. The whole thing is just a fucking lie to make these people fucking, cope. It's so dumb, and we're throwing 24 million at this. So the Republican state representative, Matt Manuela, great name, love that. The legislature are basically now trying to get a movement going to revoke the state funding, and apparently the state lawmakers in Washington have expressed disapproval of what's been going on at Evergreen State College. And I won't read you the full report, but you should definitely go and read it. It just came out today. This is a developing story. And you can see what they say here is, I will read you this quote because I think this is interesting. This is what Manuela said in an interview. He spoke directly to campus reform, and he said, these students and their administration are trying to undo the civil rights movement. Couldn't agree more. They are trying to reinstitute a Jim Crow approach to education that Americans have rejected over 50 years ago. We must never go back to a segregated society, whether it be drinking fountains, buses, or school buildings. It is incredibly frightening that the administration at Evergreen would tacitly support brown shirt tactics we haven't seen since 1930s Germany. That they would allow students to threaten professors and other students based on their race is simply horrifying. The administration bears direct responsibility for this situation. They hired the professors who have elevated the pseudoscience of social justice to a religious movement. Now all dissent is crushed by threats of violence or actual violence. Well, fuck me, Mr. Manuela. You made a fan of me. Can I call you Matt? You can come over and have tea. What a fucking legend. And I will tell you, I will laugh. The long-heartiest laugh of my life if it gets pulled. Because all of those fucking retards running around the campus, chanting, hey, hey, ho, ho. Well, guess what? They're going to be chanting fucking hey, hey, ho, ho while they're queuing up for a welfare check. Because they won't get jobs, because they don't have skills, because they're not educated, and they're going to realize that you can't just fucking live in these bubbles. You have got to fucking learn essential skills. I do include academia in that, and you've got to be willing to integrate with the workforce, and more importantly, you've got to be willing to integrate with people in society, regardless of the fucking color of their skin or their background they're from, and to promote segregational gibberish like what these guys are doing at Evergreen is fucking grotesque. So I can't wait, Sam. I even thought as well, there was a thread, somebody linked me to it on Twitter, and it was like, somebody had posted, I think it might even have been the guy who linked it to me, and he said, oh, you got to check this out. It's a thread over on it's the Evergreen has its own subreddit on Reddit, of course, and
the masses congregate.
So somebody did this, and they said, here you go. They said, hey, the outside world is watching. It's laughable that you think you are making any progress or changing how anyone thinks. Good luck landing interviews in the future with Evergreen State on your resume. Couldn't agree more. If I was an employer right now and I was, oh, you want to Evergreen State? I mean, apart from the fact it's a laughable liberal fucking arts college that teaches you absolutely nothing of value. I mean, I would be like, oh, yeah. Can I just have a look at you and just bring up this YouTube video? Oh, there you are chanting, hey, hey, ho, ho. Well, hey, hey, ho, ho, out this interview, you gotta go. Get the fuck out my office. Don't come back. You're a fucking joke. Good luck finding a job. That's the only appropriate response to these people. But you can see people are in there going, this whole thing will just blow over and no one will care about it. Oh, please defund. Please defund. I'll be in that thread. I'll make the throwaway Reddit account. Lol. Fucking get out. Just get out of my sight. I'm going to end on one little thing, and then we're definitely going to wrap it up, all right? Because I wanted to bring this up for a while, and probably should have just brought this up instead of doing a segment about, look at this guy telling me how to clean my oven and that. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, the show's gone to shit, hasn't it? But one of those days, I was a little bit sleepy, a little bit groggy, finding my energy, finding my groove now, right? So, this story from Germany, ridiculous. Makes you think, is what it does, Sam. So, this is a ice hockey story. I don't follow ice hockey or hockey of any kind, grass or ice, whatever surface you're playing hockey on. I want to like it. God knows I do. I know it's ultra violent and you've got to be a hell of a fucking man to play that game, but I just don't find it interesting. I'm sorry. All right? I'm sorry. But there was this story in Germany. Thomas Greis has done some political posts on Instagram, and it caused an outcry in the media. And I'm like, what's he said? What's he done? Here we go, right? It's going to be bad. It's got to be bad. This is what caused a national furor in the press about Thomas Greis. He had liked a number of posts on Instagram that expressed, wait for it, support for Donald Trump.
Bum, bum, bum.
Right? What a fucking nightmare. I mean, what, he supports the US president? Oh my God. Like, what's this guy thinking? Is he a fascist or something? Anyway, and also expressed, okay, strap yourself in again, disapproval of Hillary Clinton. He's done the double whammy, hasn't he? He's not just supporting Donald Trump, which you maybe can kind of get away with contextually. If you preface it by going, no, I didn't vote for him, but he is our president. And that's what you have to say these days. Otherwise, a mob just starts beating you with sticks and sets you on fire, you know. Like, I didn't vote for him, guys. I didn't vote for him. But he is our leader, please. But if you say Hillary Clinton is a crook or anything, then, you know, you're just out of control. You've gone too far. I mean, yeah, she did all that very dubious, probably illegal shit. I mean, you know, duh. But you don't talk about it. You can't criticize her. You know, not her. I'm with her. How dare you criticize her? Don't you know who her is? So on his Instagram, he liked, and this is all he did. He didn't post these himself. He just liked them. And it was a T-shirt that said, it was someone wearing a T-shirt that said, guns don't kill people. Clintons do. Right? So he just liked it. And the show's about to go full circle. Because also somebody did a picture of, have you seen that picture of Donald Trump where he's like dressed as a knight and Hillary's the dragon? And it's got the St. George thing and he's holding up the dragon's head and it's Hillary. Severed heads, remember? Right? He liked an image of that. Just liked it. Didn't draw it. Didn't commission it. Just liked it. And that's it. But the one that really triggered the German press, and, you know, they're a little bit sensitive about some stuff. I don't know if you know. There's still some stuff they're not ready to talk about yet. Was somebody had compared Hillary Clinton to Adolf Hitler. And it was like, it said underneath, never arrested, never convicted, just as innocent as Hillary. Right? Which is ridiculous. I mean, you know, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I couldn't support her in any way in any election, just because of her as an individual, even if some of the values she embodied, she's abused positions of power. Comparing it to Hitler is actually fucking retarded, though. You know, it's beyond a joke. Like, what? Yeah, she lied about that Benghazi video. Yeah, Hitler did the final solution. You know, we're just over, aren't we? So that just drove the German press into a fucking apoplexy. So first of all, there was complaints made to the German Hockey Association. And they said, well, we've talked to Thomas Greis about who he likes on Instagram. And Thomas Greis has agreed to take back his likes. from the pictures. And as a result of this, there will be no disciplinary action, and we will not drop him from the national team. Think about that. Think about that. He's good enough to play for Germany. He's good enough to represent Germany. There was a prospect of that being taken away from him because he liked a picture on Instagram. Whew. Doesn't stop there, though. Right? The vice president of the German Hockey Association had to come out and expressly tell reporters who were intimating that Thomas Greiss might actually be a Nazi. Just because he said he liked a picture of Hillary Clinton being compared to Hitler, they had to expressly say, Greiss is not a right-wing extremist, he's not a Nazi, but Hitler is a no-go. What, like, I can't... It's not like the picture said, Hillary is good and so is Hitler. Like, it said Hitler is evil and Hillary is too, in our opinion. Which is, it's still retarded, yeah, sure. But it was, there's no bring him back, unfreeze his DNA, like, it's time. It was none of that, right? Like, what? Why are they having to come out and say... So I don't get it. And he said, we've spoken to him about it. I must repeat, he is not a right-wing extremist. But that isn't enough. The press is still pushing over this. And while he may not be withdrawn from the national team, apparently he may be withdrawn from the Olympic team because of the Olympic spirit and what it means. And in the Olympic code, it says anyone who acts or communicates in this way, in any negative way, can't be a member of the team. So the press are now pushing, like, we must punish him. And they're trying to get him taken out of the Olympic teams. And, of course, Thomas Greiss hasn't commented on that. That's fucking bonkers, dude. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because of Instagram likes. So there you have it. You know. You'd think, I don't know, maybe Germans could look back in that rich, illustrious history of Germany, look at some of the dark periods in that history, which every nation state has, and maybe look at some of their approaches to, marginalizing people, dissidents, dare I say, people who don't fall in line with the mainstream political ideology of the time, publicly shaming them, taking things away from them, penalizing them, airbrushing them out of history. Maybe look at that and think to yourself, do we want to do that again? Makes you think. Right, so that's the end of the show, mate. We can end it there, brother. Unless you got anything bad.
No, that's it. Thanks for all the donations. Thanks for the subs.
Yeah, definitely thanks for donations and subs. Obviously, I wasn't paying too close attention to them because I was ranting and raving away and trying to beat my brain back into some semblance of shape. But yeah, I've been enjoying doing the daily show. We've been hitting a solid, 400 to 500 listeners every day at this, which has been good, better than we expected it to be. We think we can do better. We think by the time we go into week 2 doing it this way, we'll have a little bit more. So that said, the VOD for the previous show is already out. If after the show you feel like you can handle more Richard Lewis show, get across there, put a like in, make sure you subscribe, drop a comment, and everything else. If you want to submit this stuff to other forms of social media, definitely feel free. I'm always amazed that this doesn't end up in certain subreddits because I think it'd be right up their street, but whatever. And basically just support the show in any way you can, which we know that you do, and we really appreciate it. So yeah. That's that. If you are watching the VOD, of course, that applies double to you because you're on YouTube. And there we have it. So we'll be back tomorrow at roughly the same time, which again is about 3 p.m. Eastern, or whatever the fuck it is on the other coast. 8 p.m. UK, 9 p.m. EU. You know the drill. And there we have it. And yeah, lots of fun. Take care of yourself. We'll see you tomorrow.